It's September 17th, and this is what happened in history on this day. The year is 1862, and I have to tell you about a few events that led up to this day. At this point, it's the heat of the Civil War, and Confederate General Robert E. Lee is high-key putting hella pressure on Union forces, especially General George B. McClellan. The command under Robert E. Lee is fighting and pushing their way up north. I'm talking about the Battle of Oak Grove, Gaines Mill, Glendale. All of these battles seen Union troops getting pushed back north, eventually out of Virginia completely. Then Robert E. Lee decides to get very aggressive and push more north than he's ever had before, invading Maryland. What comes next is the bloodiest day in U.S. history. Tens of thousands of Union and Confederate forces clash, and it's absolutely brutal. Now, I won't tell you about all of the tactical details that happened, but I will tell you about the most devastating stretch that happened. Both sides meet on this 800-yard long road, and things get sick, gut-wrenching. This road becomes known as Bloody Lane for how many soldiers on each side that were slain on it. 5,600 casualties in total, with 3,000 of those being Union and 2,600 being those of the Confederacy. Now, pretty much the battle was over around 5:30 p.m. By morning time, both sides decided to call a truce, stop everything, exchange the wounded, and Robert E. Lee retreated back into Virginia. All in all, resulting from this battle, there were about 23,000 casualties, making it by far the bloodiest day in U.S. history. Now look, we all know who the Wright brothers are, world famous. They figured out how to fly, first ones to do it. But did you know in 1908, they signed contracts with the U.S. Army Signal Corps and the French Syndicate to keep building these flying machines, as they called it. Now this was big for the Wright brothers. They were getting funded, but their contracts depended on successful public flying displays. So Wilbur Wright went off to Europe to do these flight demonstrations in front of the French Syndicate. Orville Wright stayed in America and did flight demonstrations in Washington, D.C. for the U.S. Army. So when Wilbur and Orville going crazy, they cutting up in the sky, man. They're becoming world famous. The kings and queens of Europe are going to see Wilbur fly. Orville's over in the United States putting on a grand show. Until September 17th, 1908, things got dark. Army Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge got in a plane with Orville to ride passenger, really becoming an official observer of this flight. Now, 100 feet in the air, one of the propellers broke off and shattered, and they crash landed hard. Orville broke his leg, broke 4 ribs, had 3 hip fractures, and he dislocated his hip. He was hospitalized for 7 weeks. Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge, he got it even worse than Orville. He fractured his skull, and later that night, he ended up passing away at a local Army hospital. This officially made him the first plane crash fatality in history. That's all I have for y'all today. Look, man, we doing key notable events on this day. Subscribe, man. Join the Lower Order family. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see y'all next time. You dig?